The eviction notice arrived at exactly 9:17 on a bright Tuesday morning. By noon, a single father and his 12-year-old son were standing outside the tiny garage that had been their entire future, watching strangers place red warning stickers across the metal doors. The business they had spent years building was being erased in broad daylight. What nobody knew was that 21 days later, the same father would walk into the office of the powerful CEO responsible for his downfall and sign papers that transferred ownership of her entire factory into his hands. Before we begin, if you believe kindness still matters, if you believe hard work deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire for more inspiring stories that remind us never to give up. The morning sun shined brightly over the industrial district of Millhaven as Rowan Mercer rolled up the doors of his small repair garage. The modest building sat between warehouses and trucking yards, and most people drove past without noticing it. But for Rowan, that garage represented every sacrifice he had made since losing his wife 6 years earlier. At 38 years old, Rowan had become both mother and father to his son, Finn. Every school lunch packed before dawn, every late-night homework assignment, every scraped knee, every parent-teacher meeting had fallen on his shoulders. The garage was more than a business. It was the reason they had survived. Inside, the smell of engine oil mixed with the scent of fresh coffee. Finn sat at a small desk in the corner completing summer assignments while Rowan repaired a delivery van. It was an ordinary day, the kind of day that felt safe. Then a black luxury SUV pulled into the lot. 3 sharply dressed executives stepped out carrying folders and legal documents. The lead representative introduced herself and handed Rowan a thick envelope. Everything changed in that moment. The land beneath the garage had been purchased by Halcyon Industrial Systems, a massive manufacturing company led by CEO Vivian Hart. The corporation planned to expand its operations and construct a logistics center on the property. Rowan's lease, which he believed would be renewed, was being terminated immediately through a legal clause buried deep within the original contract. He had 30 days to vacate. 30 days. Years of work reduced to 30 days. The representatives left without emotion, returning to their luxury vehicle while Rowan stood frozen under the afternoon sun. That evening, Finn found his father sitting alone inside the dark garage. The usually strong man looked defeated. For the first time in years, Rowan didn't know how he would protect the life he had built for his son. Over the following days, he desperately searched for alternatives. Commercial properties were too expensive. Banks rejected loan applications. Landlords demanded deposits he couldn't afford. Meanwhile, construction crews hired by Halcyon Industrial Systems began surveying the area around the garage as if Rowan's business already no longer existed. The humiliation cut deeper each day. Customers noticed. Friends offered sympathy. But sympathy couldn't stop the countdown. 20 days later, the final notice arrived. Workers appeared with equipment to secure the property. Rowan spent the entire day packing tools into borrowed trailers. The summer heat was relentless. Sweat soaked through his shirt as he loaded equipment piece by piece. Finn worked beside him in silence. The boy understood more than Rowan realized. He saw the fear his father tried to hide. He saw the uncertainty. Most painful of all, he saw the exhaustion. When sunset arrived, the garage stood nearly empty. The place that had carried them through years of hardship looked abandoned. As Rowan locked the door for the final time, he felt as though he was burying a piece of himself. The next morning, he woke before sunrise. There was no garage to open. No customers waiting. No certainty. Only bills. Yet something unexpected happened. Instead of giving up, Rowan made a decision. He would continue working. Even if it meant starting from nothing. He rented a small section of an old storage yard outside town and began operating from a portable workshop. Conditions were terrible. There was no air conditioning. No proper office. No equipment lifts. Yet customers kept coming. Many had heard what happened and chose to support him. People admired resilience. People respected honesty. Word spread quickly. Soon, local delivery companies began sending vehicles for maintenance. Then construction contractors arrived. Then municipal service trucks. Within 2 weeks, Rowan found himself working longer hours than ever before. The setback that should have destroyed him was somehow attracting new opportunities. At the same time, trouble was quietly growing inside Halcyon Industrial Systems. CEO Vivian Hart had built a reputation for ruthless efficiency. Investors praised her. Competitors feared her. But behind closed doors, serious problems were emerging. One of Halcyon's largest factories had developed critical mechanical failures. Production delays multiplied. Shipping deadlines were missed. Major clients became frustrated. Repair contractors struggled to identify the source of recurring equipment breakdowns. Every failed solution cost the company millions. Pressure mounted daily. Executives grew nervous. Investors demanded answers. Vivian refused to show weakness, but privately she understood the situation was becoming dangerous. Then a surprising recommendation arrived. A logistics manager suggested consulting an independent mechanic who had recently solved several complex industrial equipment issues for local companies. The recommendation included a name: Rowan Mercer. At first, Vivian dismissed it. How could a small-town garage owner help a billion-dollar corporation? But desperation changes perspectives. 3 days later, Rowan received an unexpected phone call. Halcyon wanted a consultation. The irony wasn't lost on him. The very company that had forced him out now needed his expertise. Friends urged him to refuse. Others suggested revenge. But Rowan thought about Finn. He thought about responsibility. And he accepted. The following morning, he entered Halcyon's massive manufacturing complex. The facility stretched across acres of land. Machines roared. Assembly lines operated continuously. Thousands of workers moved through the buildings. Yet despite its size, Rowan quickly noticed problems others had overlooked. He spent hours examining equipment, reviewing maintenance logs, analyzing production data. By afternoon, he identified the root cause. A series of poorly calibrated systems were creating chain reactions throughout the factory. The issue wasn't obvious. But once discovered, the solution became clear. Implementation began immediately. Within 48 hours, production efficiency improved dramatically. Breakdowns decreased. Deadlines stabilized. Millions of dollars in losses were prevented. Executives were stunned. Vivian was forced to acknowledge his brilliance. For the first time since the lease dispute, she sat across from Rowan in a conference room. The sunlight streamed through enormous windows overlooking the factory floor. She expected anger, resentment, bitterness. Instead, she found professionalism, humility, integrity. Everything she had forgotten while climbing the corporate ladder. As they spoke, she learned about Finn. About the years Rowan spent raising his son alone. About the sacrifices. About the garage. About the eviction. The story lingered in her mind long after the meeting ended. That night, Vivian couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about a man who had every reason to hate her but chose dignity instead. Then another crisis emerged. Halcyon's board of directors launched an internal investigation. Financial decisions made under Vivian's leadership came under scrutiny. Several aggressive expansion projects had weakened company stability. Investor confidence collapsed. Within days, board members voted to remove her as CEO. The announcement shocked the industry. The woman who once controlled everything suddenly controlled nothing. As panic spread among shareholders, a private investment group stepped forward with a rescue proposal. Leading the group was an unexpected figure: Rowan Mercer. The success of his consulting work had attracted investors who recognized his practical genius. They believed he could save the struggling company. 21 days after losing his garage lease, Rowan walked back into Halcyon Industrial Systems. This time, he wasn't entering as a victim. He wasn't entering as a contractor. He was entering as the majority owner. The acquisition papers sat neatly on the conference table. Executives watched in disbelief. Reporters gathered outside. History was unfolding. When Rowan signed the final document, ownership of the factory officially changed hands. The room fell silent. A single father who had once packed tools into trailers under the scorching sun now controlled one of the region's largest manufacturing facilities. Yet his first decision surprised everyone. Instead of seeking revenge, he announced employee protection measures. He expanded worker benefits. He created apprenticeship programs. He invested in local businesses. And most importantly, he established a community fund to help struggling entrepreneurs avoid losing their dreams the way he nearly had. The old garage site was eventually rebuilt. Not as a warehouse. Not as a logistics center. But as a vocational training facility where young people could learn technical skills and build better futures. Above the entrance stood a simple plaque. It read, "Success means little unless you lift others along the way." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps more people discover stories that inspire hope, resilience, and second chances. Special request: comment below with the word resilience if you believe setbacks can become the foundation of something greater. Years later, visitors often asked Rowan what the most important day of his life had been. Many assumed it was the day he bought the factory. Others guessed it was the day he became successful. But Rowan always gave the same answer. The most important day was the day everything fell apart. Because that was the day he learned that losing what you built does not mean losing who you are. Sometimes life closes one door so completely that it feels impossible to move forward. Yet hidden behind that painful ending is often a beginning greater than anything we imagined. And for one single father and his son, 21 difficult days became the bridge between heartbreak and a future beyond their wildest dreams.